Good morning.
Good morning.
It feels dead weird doing a podcast on a weekend.
Oh, it's so weird. I felt like you've been my mum this morning.
I know, I'm really sorry, but
I
do
know.
you know what? I finally do get how anxious I made you on the radio day. But right now, you're going to have to get over it.
I know. I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, which is kind of a usual time for me to get up.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, no, it's Saturday. I've got a bit longer. So I fell back asleep. And truth, because I've got to be honest, I got your message this morning. He was like, can you get on at 10 to? I had completely forgotten about this morning and was like, oh my God, I've just opened my eyes. So I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't have had my mum text off you.
Well, I do. I'd have been sat here on my own speaking to Oliver. So speaking of which, we've got our Be Sober. Do we call him Be Sober Bristol or Be Sober Men's now? I don't really know what his official kind of thing is now.
Well, it's Oliver, Be Sober.
It's Oliver. It's just Oliver.
Ambassador.
And he's coming on this morning, isn't he? We'll talk about the kind of men's sobriety in general, hopefully, and also a little bit about his story. So quite excited about this one.
Why are you not excited about the rest normally?
I'm just, do you know what? I've just thought about something. I'm always excited about them, as you know. And this is our last one of the season. We need to tell people that. I was just about to sort of pause it until Oliver comes on, but this is our last one of the season.
Oh my gosh, guys, this is the last one of the season. Oh.
Hi, Oliver.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. Are you okay?
Very well indeed. Very well indeed.
This is good news. It's nice when people are well. So we have just kind of done a little introduction and said that you are now our Be Sober Men's Ambassador. And I don't even know whether you know what you're talking about, but I've told everybody what you're talking about, so I apologise in advance. I just said we'll talk a little bit about men's sobriety generally, and if it's all right with you, have a little bit about your story as well, Oliver.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, nice to be asked, and to talk about myself. Why not?
You are grand finale as well, Oliver. This is our final episode of this series.
Is it? Oh, I'm the last one. Is my light above my head? Is that off-putting, or is it?
Well, you've told us.
Yeah.
No, you look angelic. You look, honestly, that's what it looks like.
You've got a beautiful aura.
An aura. God, I'd love to have an aura, but I don't, sadly. Right,
I think everybody has an aura, Oliver.
Yeah.
They do. It's true, whether you like it or not. Just like we all get looked after.
Lovely. Right, let's see how this looks. There we go. That's a bit better.
Oh, yeah, there you are. No
Perfect.
halo now.
Thank you.
Okay, so shall we start before we go into kind of the Be Sober element of stuff? Can we start with your story and what brought you to the point of getting sober?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'd always felt a wee bit out of sorts, really. I was quite a sort of problematic child, really. I had felt very isolated and quite lonely, and it just carried me through. I think I just had some really sort of debilitating beliefs as well that I just sort of, I don't know, I just never made any effort, really. I think that'd be the bottom line. I was just the classic lazy kid. I don't think I made any effort until I was about 17, 18 in anything. But I had a few things that shaped my life. I grew up in quite a rigid home. Like, emotional stuff wasn't really discussed. Yeah. And it was just very, 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 very much about the show, the show. And my mother's still very, very much about the show now, even. And but don't get me wrong, I didn't feel.
When you say that, do you mean like the show, as in what everybody else is looking at? So everything looks lovely on the outside, and let's just hush everything up, sweep it under the carpet, kind of thing.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. And all about the image. My father died when I was 13, so he was 53. So he's a pretty young man, and that really impacted me. And I didn't really start grieving for him until I was in my late teens. I couldn't really take on the enormity of what had happened. Yeah, really, it shaped me immediately, but I didn't know it. I didn't realize it until my sort of late teens. And then we lived in a community, and both my parents been heavily involved in the church. And I was abused through somebody in the church, sexually and physically, from the ages of 15 till I was just shy of 17.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, which was really horrific, and that really shaped me as well. Really shaped me as well. And I think I was one of quite a few boys that had that experience. And yeah, it was that was really, really heavy stuff to sort of try and process by the time I was 18.
Such a vulnerable time as well, Oliver, after losing your dad.
But that's how those people specialize, isn't it? I think had there been a male presence, had there been a male presence around, that wouldn't have happened, you know. Yeah. And
you know what scares me about that bit, all of it scares me actually, but the bit that really scares me is, you know, I was a teacher for years, and I've worked in schools, and my own son's 15. And you kind of think at 15, they're good. I've got them out, you know, he's not smoking, he's not drinking. I've got them through the worst. I'm probably going to do an all right job. And they're not at risk. And actually, when you say that, I think, oh my God, he is. You are still at risk at 15.
Yeah. Massively. And so, but in the background of all of that, I was already like a lot of teenagers. I'd started off smoking, dabbling in a bit of drink, doing a bit of drugs. And so I was already sort of doing that. By the time I was about 18, I was already pretty much on. You know, I was 27 when I stopped, and people were like, bloody hell. But as you think about it, right? I mean, if you were at it for 10 years, and I was, that's a significant period of time to be tipping industrial quantities of booze down your neck.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah. Believe you me, 10 years can do plenty of damage to a human being, you know, physically, emotionally, mentally, you know, and yeah, I was just one of those drinkers. I just brought madness with me. Do you know what I mean? I just specialized in chaos, and I thought it was funny. You were laughing about Honora earlier. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was really attached to that identity, you know, and I'd probably, and if I'm honest, even though I was taking the mick out of my parents a little bit there for being rigid in the show, in a little way, I'd learned that, you know, I got really attached to that show. You know, and I always joke a little bit when I'm on Instagram or whatever that I thought I was like some Steve McQueen, George Best hybrid, right? But the truth of the matter is, jokes aside, like in my head, I kind of did. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But without none of the charisma or talent or anything that those two men had, and it was just and it was just a very, very painful life. I was very lonely, and I did what a lot of us do. I made really, really poor choices. I was very, very good at building things up that were quite good. I was a chef. I was a career chef. I was quite skilled, and I really enjoyed it. And I'd work really hard. I'd build up some money. I'd do well at work. Maybe I'd get a girlfriend. Maybe I'd get a nice girlfriend. And eventually I just take a match to it, you know.
It's a boozy career that though as well that you've kind of chosen, Oliver, isn't it? As a chef.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I used to work in one kitchen in central Bristol, and there was about 12 of us in the kitchen, so like a sort of medium-sized team. And like I was one of like 5 chefs that were like absolutely on it, you know. And out of that 5, I think 3 of us were quite open around the fact that it's like, yeah, I'm an alky, you know. So
did you have the temper too that chefs are known to have?
Yeah, I did. But the thing is, the industry is not like that anymore. That all stopped sort of like mid-noughties. But yeah, that was another thing that I handed myself over to. You know, my role models. You know, I chose really, really poor male role models as well. You know, and I think a lot of us do, don't we? On our journeys, you meet you meet really, really good people, and you just end up hanging around. I wouldn't say with scumbags, because that's unfair, but you end up hanging around with people that are just like you, and identifying with people who are worse than you, and think, oh God, get you. I'm going to hang out with you. You're more mental than I am. I can take this to the next level hanging around with you. This is going to be great. And what you really need to be doing is finding, it's all a journey, isn't it? It's all a journey. And
you know, I just wanted to ask you one thing. You know, we talk about women's drinking, and we say, you know, we have obviously being women and having lots of female guests on as well. A lot of the women seem to talk about this kind of just being sick of it, just being fed up of it, just being tired. Is it the same sort of thing for you and for men in general, or do you think there's more of a rock bottom moment?
I think I think with quite a broad brushstroke, I think men do take it further. I think men seem to have been this sort of moment of having rock bottom experiences or needing that. And I think also as well, I think there's a very, very different shame. You know, I think it's not uncommon to meet blokes that aren't really in the lives of their children, you know, because some wife's gone, off you go, you're an absolute Burke. Or they've just walked away because they're, you know, whereas, you know, a woman that's not in the lives of their children, you know, I mean, society's got plenty to say about that, haven't they? Do you know what? I've probably got an opinion on that, if I'm honest with you, you know, and I think women just get shamed on a far deeper level for behavior around drinking. It's like, oh, won't you think of your kids, or won't you think of this or that? Even if they haven't got children, it's like, shouldn't you be behaving differently? Whereas I think with men, it's because we don't open up and we don't talk. It has to get taken further before you do reach a place of being willing to talk, you know. And
you've just triggered a memory there as well, actually, Oliver, that when I did used to go out, how people would always ask me like, oh, where are the kids, who's got the kids, who's babysitting? And it used to really irritate me, like, what's it got to do with anybody else where my children are? Like, when the dad goes out, he never gets asked that question, like, ever. And it used to irritate the hell out of me.
Yeah, I know, and I know, and like, where's it come from? You know, I know a boss of mine, she didn't have any children, and we'd have these meetings, and other women would ask her, "Oh, you haven't got any children? Why is that?" And I said,
it's such a personal question, isn't it?
Like,
It's
nuts. And I was always amazed because blokes never said it to her, right? But other women did, and I was like, "I bet you've had that all your life." And she was like, "Yeah." I mean, you were brave to say it to her. She was bloody nails, but it's just like, what the hell, you know? What the hell? But to go back to what you've asked, Alex, undoubtedly, I mean, it's absolutely exhausting. I mean, I had so many fronts going on. You can't really be open, you can't really be vulnerable at all, you know. And I think women do sort of have teary sort of breakdown moments when they're getting pissed up with close friends. I mean, you can't really do that as a bloke, you know. And so it is like doubly exhausting keeping the fronts going on. And I think as well, it's also why a lot of men that go down the alcoholic route or the alcohol dependency route become isolated drinkers eventually. It's a very very linear path that most men end up drinking alone because
I get it. It's actually really pulling on my heartstrings thinking about it, and I think partly because it triggers a chord and it strikes a chord in me with my dad. I mean, you know, I've made no secret that my dad was an alcoholic and he died 12 years ago. He was sober in the end, but he still died from the impact that alcohol had on him. And it really hurts me to think that actually I knew, because when he got sober, he talked. But during his drinking years, I know how alone he felt, even though he never looked alone. He was life and soul of the party. He had his mates round him. He was always in the pub, but he had no real people who understood just what a dark place he'd gone to. And it really pulls on me. I think, oh, you know, I really do wish, and I know it's the end of Men's Health Week this week, so maybe this is kind of a good time to talk about it, but I really do genuinely wish more men could just come forward and say, you know what, I just need to talk, I just want some help. And I think it's getting better, but it's not enough still, in my opinion. There's still not enough going on.
No. There's not. I think it's very, very hard. I do think it's generational. I think the generation below me, so like, you know, my children, I think men are a lot more open about saying where they are. They've grown up with. I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, the shame of being gay. I mean, there must have been boys in my school that were gay. There must have been, but just the shame of that. Whereas, you know, you look at, you know, LGBT, that's why I said there's another two initials on the end of that now, isn't there? It's evolved so much. But they're growing up in a far more open and accepting time. It's 2021, you know, you're 16 years of age, you can be whoever you want to be, you know. So, and that's not being and if it is being judged, it's actually getting pushed back on really strongly in social media. Don't judge. Whereas I think for a lot of men, they didn't have that. I think a lot of it's generational as well, you know. So, like, my father was a quiet man. I mean, he must have suffered, but, you know, their parents fought in the war, you know, so they really had been through genuine hardship, and they'd not grumbled. Their fathers had probably been through a war. So you're there in the 60s, and you're sort of teenage boy, your 20-year-old son's trying to open up. off you go, get to work, get yourself a trade, son. I'm not listening to this crap, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And you know, and actually, you know, you've got some stuff going on, and maybe all you've got is a little bit of anxiety. You know, you've got some unpicked up ADHD, or you don't do well at school, and you've been told you're an idiot, and that's the only thing that's wrong. Something very, very fixable nowadays. But back then, because you didn't talk about it, it evolved into anxiety, which you then cured with drink, which then fed your bad behavior, which then destroyed your life. And actually, all there was at the heart of it was just like dyslexia or something. Do you know what I mean? Because nobody talked, men especially, on any level. It grew and grew and grew and grew.
Yeah, I get it. And it's like, I think women are good at talking, but we don't have necessarily the same level of understanding about men's problems. And I think this is part of what we discussed, and I want to move into it a little bit. So when we first talked about opening up the men's group with you, this was part of the kind of reasoning behind it, wasn't it? Having this space for men where that maybe women don't have the same understanding and compassion for, and don't have the same level of empathy for, because we maybe haven't been through the same sort of things. You know, like when I think about my emotional health, men can actually relate to my emotional health because a lot of them have been through the same sort of things. Do you know what I mean? That they're the father or they're the husband. But I think there's a big disconnect between what men understand about women and what women understand about men. So I think it's definitely needed, this space. And the way we've labelled it is run by men for men. And we really want to grow this. And that's where we're at the moment, isn't it? This space for men. We've got a Facebook group, we've got the Zoom, and you're the man in charge.
I'm the man in charge. Yeah. Well, I think that is the thing. Yeah, it's a real starting point for us as a group, and it will take a while to build, as we've spoken upon, because you know, men don't want to. I'm not saying that men don't want to open up, but there needs to be a real degree of trust there before men open up. And the line of work that I work in, I meet a lot of men on various sort of levels in their career, but also in their personal journeys. And there's a real sort of ownership of being a sort of provider, you know, being somebody who is ultimately attractive. I don't think some of the rules around being a man have really changed that much. You know, you know, for me, my ability, quite simply, to earn money and protect and feed my children is an enormous part of my identity, and I want to be a good husband as well. Well, if you failed on that through alcohol, and you've not processed it, and you've got sober, you're still living with it. Like, where do you go with that? Because you're probably living in a world which is seeing other men with their marriages, with their children, if they've gone down that traditional route, or they're moving forward, you know, commercially or holistically, or through well-being or fitness, or whatever way it is they've tapped into to increase their lives. And you're not getting to that because you're still living back in bloody 1998 or whatever. Where do you go with that? And if you go online, and if you were to try to find something that tells you where you can go with that, with those feelings and that query that you've got, there's nowhere. There really isn't anywhere you can go. There might be a podcast or something you can listen to, Men's Health or whatever, but not all. Some of them are very jokey, some of them are very serious, and it's very, very difficult, I think, to find a connection. So that's why we started the Facebook group. That's why we started the Be Sober Men Only. It'll be a long, slow burn. I think we're going to build some members. It's going to take some time for everybody to get to know each other. And then we can start to talk about these things that men feel huge shame about. And I think when I spoke with you two, I said, like, at the end of my drinking, I nearly went to prison for drink driving for the second time. I mean, how I didn't go to prison, I don't know. Even my lawyer said, you're looking at a sentence. And the bottom line is, I'm the man that runs your daughter over outside her house at 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm that bloke, you know. That's, you know. But at the same time, it's like, well, I wouldn't hit a woman. I wouldn't cheat on my wife. You know, it's like, well, I don't really think you're in any position to call out anybody's moral codes, Oliver. Do you know what? You know, and I think men get really, really bogged down in that.
Do you think, Oliver, that's why men kind of choose AA initially, because of the animosity? Why can I not say that word, Alex?
Honestly, we've got such an issue around anonymity.
Anonymity. I can't say it.
Anonymity.
It's been days now.
It's been nearly a week.
Has it? Yeah. I don't know why it is. I mean, I found AA very welcoming. I went, you know my story. I went to AA for a long, long time. I'd be dead without it. But yeah, the ratio of men to women in AA is enormous. I think it's like even, I think in the States it's like even 80-20. It's not even close. And I think as well that perhaps, yeah, it is that sort of quite uncompromising, do the steps, get sober, follow this pattern, follow this process. This person's in charge, even though they say it's not hierarchical, it is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men find that a lot easier to fit into, so they know where to position themselves in. Yeah, I think that could be a factor. You know, that could be a factor. I think men are probably quite used to competing, or there's an alpha figure in the room, and we'd like to take some of that out. But I also think as well, it's no different to what you see in a lot of society. There's an enormous amount of comparison that men have. Men are terrible for comparing. I doubt women are any different, if I'm honest. You know, and for my 40th, my mother bought me a prescription for a GQ magazine, and I just put it straight into recycling. All right, and it's not because I'm ungrateful. I put it in there because it upsets me in a little way looking at that. You know, where if I'm not driving a Jaguar, I haven't got a watch on my wrist that costs as much as I earn in a year, and I've not married the best looking woman I've met after I've slept with all the other best looking women I've met, and I've got a £500 suit on, I have failed.
Yeah, that's crappy, isn't it?
You know, and that's what
shit magazine.
But also as well, the little bit that it's hard to avoid all processes of social media, isn't it? And a lot of women influencers that I see in marketing, that's what they're peddling.
Yeah.
You know, they're peddling. Look at this body. Look at my man. Look at my car. Look at my Rolex. What have you got, bitch? You know?
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, and it's like, that's the thing. You've got to be so careful what content you're taking in, because before you know it, you're like, I've massively failed here. You know, it's like, have you really failed? No, you haven't. Let's take a look at it. You're sober. You've been sober for some period of time. You're a part of a group. You feed into it, and you know, and you're contributing to a family or a dynamic. And I think a lot of people, men especially, really lose that. They lose sight of what they have got, and they focus on what they haven't got because they're looking at the wrong people. They're choosing the wrong role models. Yeah. They're looking at the wrong content. Myself, for years, I don't want to criticize AA. It was great. For years, I was just in the wrong room. You know, I was in the wrong room. That message had served its purpose, and I hung around. And I hung around for too long because a part of my story is, especially as a drinker, I had no loyalty. I don't even think I could spell loyalty, right? And a part of my sober journey was learning loyalty. Like, I've got the same friends now for 10 years. I used to fall out with people like that, you know? So I had like an extended loyalty card that overplayed its purpose, and I started hearing things I didn't want to hear. I started comparing myself, and I wandered around like a lost sheep, suffering alone for about 3 years. And even though at that time I was 12 years sober, in all honesty, it might as well have been 2005. I was living exactly the same life. I just wasn't drinking, you know.
So do you think that's a thing then? I mean, for you, and I'm not saying it's for everybody at AA, but like you've got sober, but you're still, is this the bit where they say you're a dry drunk? I know that's a really awful term, but like the mentality of drinking is still there. You're still behaving in the same manner, maybe even just using willpower to get through each day. I don't know. Do you think for you, the biggest developments have shifted in the last 3 years? And is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I definitely took a look at mindset. And so my day used to consist of, I used to get up early, so that I didn't have to deal with my partner at the time. I'd get in the car, road rage all the way to work, row with my team all day, road rage all the way home, argue till 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, go to sleep, and I would just do that. Weekends were just horrendous, and I didn't feel suicidal, but I had just took so many poor choices based on behaviors and image and stuff, and I'd gone full circle. I'd got sober, learned what was wrong with me. I'd got myself educated. I'd looked at my selfishness. Lisa and I were joking once in a Zoom meeting. I was a terrible liar and a thief, and I didn't even know I was, but I was. Do you know what I mean? I lost 2 jobs for stealing, and it wasn't until I got sober that I understood like why they'd sacked me for stealing. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, what the hell's wrong with me? I'd worked all that stuff out. I had some friends. I had loyalty. I got fit. I bought a property. I had money in the bank. and I didn't go on to the next stage. I don't know what the next stage was. Actually, the next stage was a learning experience for me. But yeah, I just wasn't drinking. That was the only difference. I just wasn't drinking, and I was probably, if I'm really honest with you, I was probably angrier and unhappier than I was when I had been drinking. You know, and it was really, and it was a real eye opener for me. And it was like, right, you know, there's two options. There's a number of options here, Oliver. Like, change it, start drinking again, see if it's different, or go off the bridge. You know, that's the three options. You know, I was in my late 30s, and I've had a couple of breakdowns in my life. I think a lot of us have, haven't we? It's not until you start drinking you look. But I had a breakdown when I was 20. I just didn't know it. It just felt like a really crap time. It was like, oh, actually, that was a breakdown. And it was like, right, Oliver, you know what comes next. Like, so you know what comes next, you know. And you know, I'm gonna end up getting caught in a road rage incident. I'm gonna, you know. And I remember I had a spat with a guy in at a roundabout over something, and these were just becoming more and more common. And I went to go and get out of the car, but the lights went green, and he drove off. I was chatting to a friend of mine who's a really tough man, and he said, just never get out of the car. You know, he said, I'm hard, and like, never get out of the car. You just don't know what you're walking into, you know. And I just lost all my perspective of life and who I was. And what I want to do is I want to help people. I want to be an ethical human being, which means different things to different people. Of course it does. I know what my ethics are. I'm honest. I'm transparent. I want to help people. I don't steal, lie, cheat. And it's not all about me. And I can fall into that very, very easily. Believe you me, you know. And yeah, I was just becoming that person again, but without drink. So in a way I was deadly, because you know what it's like when we drink, often you're just at home drinking, aren't you, for hours of the day. Well, if you're not drinking, you're out in the world.
You're out and about. Yeah, you're there. I mean, everybody. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say to you. Like, you're actually more dangerous because you've actually got that clarity and the drive to go and do something about your anger.
Yeah, I was absolutely lethal, absolutely lethal. And in that relationship that I was in, it ended, and I got bought out of the property. I had a little pot of money, and I thought, right, this is going to be a fresh start for me. I'm going to start moving forward. And yeah, I think about 2 years later, COVID struck, and I left AA. I had to come online, and I think you were one. I think you might have been the second or the third people I reached out to. You know, so yeah, that was it. And I would never have thought about the online community. I would never have thought about this thing. It's massive, and it's open, and it's really what is very, very little toxic behavior. If anybody is a Burke, they literally get called out in no time, and you never see them again, because the moderators just block them, you know. And yeah, it's beautiful, you know.
Can I ask you then, just going back to this point, this actual turning point, which you know exactly when it happened, you know what's happened. Can you just describe to us that moment of, or the moments of, right, this is what I need to do, and this is what I've done. So like, you've been living a certain way for so long, you get to that place, and then what's different in these last few years? What exactly is different?
What exactly is different? Well, how I've begun to view myself is different. I try to have a positive mindset. There's also a lot of acceptance as well. I'm quite dry. And I found myself being very jokey and being very bantery, and like, you know, you two are quite uplifting and sort of ebullient women. You know, like, I'm not like that. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, I think sort of having to accept who I am. Like, I'm not Mr. Unicorns and Rainbows, and nor will I be. You know, but I'm also not like, have you seen the end of Apocalypse Now? Because that's what it's going to look like if we don't get ourselves together. You know, I really
I've just realised I'm a mixture of both of them.
But I've come to realise that, like, I'm a standard issue bloke. I've got a son, I've got a stepdaughter, blah blah blah. It's like, start looking at what standard issue blokes do and be consistent. You know, I was very, very punishing on ourselves. I think all of us are. You know, when we get things wrong, we're incredibly punishing on ourselves. I used to write big long lists, you know, none of which ever got achieved, so I'd fail on them. So I started to just be a little bit more gentle to myself, a little bit more kinder to myself. But also, when I started exploring far more options that were out there, that's the place that I'd realised I hadn't really changed anything for years. So I had to do like a bit of an overhaul, really. you know, looking at my diet, looking at how I responded to people, how I wanted to be perceived, because it, you know, it all matters, you know. And I think as well, becoming an open book. I was never one of those, you know, I don't want to criticize AA, but they're called big book thumpers, right? And that's, if you're in AA, that's great. That's the process. But even when I was hugely engaged in AA, I equally understood why people used to come in and literally do a UE and walk out the door. Like I did know there was other routes. And that was one of the best things about COVID. It came at just the right time for me. It's been a disaster for the world, but it came at the right time for me because it gave me a great opportunity to stop and look at what I was doing to maintain my sobriety. I wasn't helping other people, which is which for me is a big thing. I think it's, you know that yourself, don't you? You've really got to go, once you get yourself right, you've really got to go back into the fire and do all you can to pull other people out of the fire. That's you know, and the truth of the matter is, whether it's in AA, us, Sober Dave, all the legions of people out there are doing it. That's at the core of what they do. It's like, I'm sound, I'm going back. You know,
this is where our ambassadors seem to have come from, like, and which is amazing for Be Sober. Actually, we're absolutely buzzing about it, but they seem to come on as ambassadors because they've got to that point of, right, I'm sober, I feel great about it, but I definitely now would like to start helping other people, and it gives that extra level, really, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But the thing is, that's what makes that ambassador role so integral to what we do, but also so vital, because you really had to have had that experience. You know. And I was given this joke last night. I was watching the football last night, and I'm literally like, you know, kick it, put it up there. No, I've watched a lot of football. Truth of the matter is, I haven't got a damn clue what's going on that pitch. Not really. Do you know what I mean?
You all didn't know.
Do you know what I mean? They're all incredibly fit, highly skilled, you know, athletically intelligent people. You know, there's so much more to it than looks. And it's the same with stopping drinking or helping people that's had that drinking. If you haven't got that DNA in you, you're not really going to be of any use to anybody. Sorry, you know, you're just not. And you can be a highly trained therapist, which will help with the why, and will help with the background that brings a lot of us into drinking and then into sobriety and beyond. Those people are incredibly intelligent. The only person that is really going to understand what any of us has been through is us.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no judgment. You want to put your most shameful card on the table? That's absolutely fine. Here's mine. Yeah. It's not a competition. You want to talk about shame? I can talk about shame all day. You know, all day. I am not going to judge you because you think you weren't a great mother, a great dad. You know, I wasn't a great brother, and my brother's sadly dead. How the hell do I live with that? It's like, he probably wasn't well either, nor were you. You know, and that's what makes
having that compassion for yourself as well, like you've just described there. You know, he wasn't well either, neither were you. It is, you've clearly developed a compassion and an empathy for past you.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's when that, and in the nicest possible, not trying to big myself up, and you see it from all the ambassadors, and a lot of this, that's when you know you're right. In a way, that's when you know you're well. Is when it's like, right, I am a vehicle for sobriety. You know, I'm sober. I've stopped drinking for this amount of time. Now it's time for me to wear some kind of badge, whether it's Be Sober or Ollie Gets Sober or Let's Get Sober Together or whatever it is that you're a part of.
Yeah.
And like you say, you develop that compassion, you develop that empathy, and you find a group of people, and it's like, let's get through this together, because that's probably the only way we're going to do it. And it grows, it snowballs, you know. And I say this as well, you know, with I think I said when I did one of the ambassadors room, like, you know, this is like really early days for you guys and us, isn't it? This is like the foundations this is the foundations that are being laid. And I always think, you know, groups, especially sober groups, it's like a watch. You know, you take a watch, right? You pop the back off it, go to your jeweler, ask them to take the back. Not all the parts are moving at the same time. That's not how a watch works, right? But it's a little bit like being in a group, you know. So Lisa, on Tuesday, you're top of the world, feeling absolutely great. I'm feeling absolutely terrible. You reach out to me, you know, I help you. Saturday morning, you've got a problem. You're on social media saying, and I reach out to you. We're like a watch. Not all the parts are working on the back. That doesn't matter, because you turn it over and the hands are moving. That's the key thing, moving, you know, moving forward. And all those little parts are moving, just at different times to do different jobs. They all matter. You
I
know?
absolutely love that analogy.
I love that
Oliver.
analogy.
It's so true. And we always say this, like with the sober lounges that we run, it doesn't matter how you are feeling that day. You've got to turn up to that group, you know, like just exactly what you said. It's just such a lovely analogy.
It's like some days you'll need the group, but most days the group will need you. That's what we say.
Yeah. It's a beautiful post, you know.
Yeah.
And it also as well, it's a great example, and it's so simple, isn't it? Because you think when you're reaching that point where you stop drinking or early days of sobriety, and you think literally, it's like I just need decades of counselling to get over this. And actually, those little things you see, you know, the group needs you. It's actually it really, really simplifies it and really, really breaks it down.
What I love about our community, you know, like with the ambassadors, with the members, even with myself and Lisa, is nobody's story is the same. So you will always find someone in our group that has been through something similar to you. Always. You know, this the number of people, for example, who've said, I suffered from domestic abuse, or I suffered from sexual trauma, or whatever it is, you know, and somebody else, me too, let's talk about it. And they might be a bit further along, and they might have been through a little bit more of the healing process. There's always someone to cling on to, and they'll pull you through. And I love that. And I don't know whether it's the same in every community, but I just feel in the Be Sober community, we've really got that right. Like you say, we've got the watch moving.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think it's our I think it's our asset. I think it's what sets us apart. I think it's why why members are increasing so much. I think it's why we've got a really, really good traction rate. And people stay. But I think also as well, I won't name her because it's her story, but one of our ambassadors, I think she drank a couple of Saturdays ago, didn't she? She did this post and a thing. I mean, that is just about the most powerful thing I've ever seen on social media. I mean, I was just like, good, the sheer bravery of that woman to do that. I mean, I'm sort of welling up a bit now.
You've given me goosebumps.
You've given me.
I was just like, wow, that is. But that's it. I mean, that is. You know, and I've seen read quite a few posts from that woman. And I was thinking that's exactly who she wants to be. And I bet you 2 years or whatever, when she would have been in there drinking, she wouldn't have even dreamed of that level of honesty, probably around even taking the last packet of crisps. Do you know what I mean? So to go on social media, but that is, you know, and that stems from when you know that you are absolutely anchored in a group, you know, because the sad nature of this really is this, right? You are either in hell and drinking, you're drinking and it's okay. You're in early sobriety, clinging on. You're in sobriety and it's sound. You're heading towards a drink, or you're drinking again. There's not really that much of a spectrum with this, sadly. Like you're either sound or you're not. You know what I mean? It's you know. And I'm a real big believer in, you know, as long as you're not drinking, you'll be okay. I mean, I'm coming up to 16 years, and I don't say that to brag. And not all of those 16 years have been unicorns and rainbows. Believe me. But I have not drunk in that time, and I believe it is one of the reasons why I have been able to move forward and to explore. And I'm not judging anybody that drinks; it is a part of it. Because I could drink this year; it could happen. It's not unheard of. But if you don't drink, you're in with a real chance. But if you do drink, if you're incredibly honest around the drinking and say this is what I did, this is why, and now I'm moving forward, you're in with a really, really good chance. Really, really good chance. It doesn't matter whether you've gone away for 3 months, one night or whatever, and you've got on it. Come back and go, this is what happened. Don't protect it. Don't cover it. Don't justify it. If you want to go back to 0 days, that's fine. If you don't, you want to keep the 3 months and say it was a blip. I've also got no judgment on that. You know, I've got no judgment on that. It's the honesty around what has happened and the reaching out that will solve it. I've seen it.
And you know what? You know the thing is about that as well, and you did give me goosebumps as well around this and around that particular post, because it did take strength, and we've spoken as well with that ambassador, and it did take strength and it did take courage. But the key thing that's come out of it for that particular ambassador, and for anyone who this happens to, is I now know what went wrong. I now know how next time I'm going to deal with that, and I now know more than ever that I want to be sober. You know, and it's so, like you say, it's so powerful. The number of people that will have sat there and seen that post and thought, right, I'm not going to drink today. I don't want to feel like that.
I love that about posts like that, you know, and like you said with the group, it's all about non-judgment, and people are going to do things like that. And everybody really is so supportive. There's just never, ever, ever any judgment. But I know when I used to see posts in a group, especially in my early sobriety, and somebody would be like, oh my God, I did this last night, I hate myself. That post itself would stop me from going out and drinking if I felt like I was going to do that day. I was like, oh, I do not want to feel like that person. So every single post, whether it be somebody floating around on a pink fluffy cloud, that's inspiring. But actually posts like that are inspiring as well, aren't they? Because I just love our group. I just think it's so good. I'm a bias.
No, you're not. It's amazing, and it's got a fantastic, that's it. And you know what, I know we're talking about the men's group here. The men's group's brought that extra element of kind of inclusivity, and I know, like we say, it's early days, it's going to grow. Tell us, Oliver, just before we finish up, where do you hope it goes to? What do you hope happens with the men's group? What do you see it being? Well,
without trying to sound too cliche, I hope it does exactly what it says on the tin. I hope it becomes a group that is for men that feel they can come to and they can be safe. I hope that we can have Zoom meetings on the second Friday of each month, and that it's a space where men feel they can be they can be the men that they are. You know, not work Dan, not home Dan, not that group of friends Dan that why am I still hanging around with them Dan? You know, it's somewhere that you can come along and feel safe and be yourself and get information and experience and support and zero judgment from other men and see that. Because like you say, it's about what you're doing in the other two groups is it'll cascade. Because if you have that experience as a man, well, hopefully you're going to start going out in society. At the very, very least, you might start having some of those conversations with some other men who might hear some of it, you know, and because that's I think we've got a long way to go. And there's a guy that I follow on social media. He's making big waves in the online sober community, and I think it's only now like a year on from being in the online community that he's starting to reveal his stories and the why behind it. And he's built up a very, very quick following. He's a real he's a real sort of ambassador, so to speak, in the Instagram community. And I get that, you know, I so get that because, you know, he's a man's man, you know, and it's like, even with the huge number of followings and helping that he's doing, it still took him a year to open up about the why behind the drinking. And if it takes a year, it takes a year. If we can just help a couple of people initially to feel this is a space you can come to and open up, that's great. That is really great.
I can't wait to see your rising in that way, because honestly, and I don't mean you for your ego, I mean the Oliver that is there that can genuinely help other people. And I can't wait to see that presence on social media for you, because I fully know that is coming. I fully absolutely know that Be Sober Men's Group is going to be a thing, and it's going to be the thing that you hope it'll be. I really do. I really feel it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's we spoke about it, didn't we? Obviously, we had the leading up to it, and it's definitely because it's out there, and you have to wonder why, you know, and rather than wondering why, it's like, let's get some actions together. Let's just get the wheels in motion. Let's just start it, and let men know. It'll be a long time. Same on the Instagram as well. Lots and lots of people are joining. Yeah, and they're following. I keep it quite male, but it's great. Lots of women comment on it as well because
they're nosy like us.
I think there's maybe an element of that. Maybe they're hoping that I'll show off my chiseled physique and all my tattoos. but in all honesty, I think it's because they have compassion and they understand the power of a group, and they want to see. Yeah. You know, I just want to see anybody be successful. You know, I don't care how you get sober or stay sober. I want you to stay sober. You know.
What's amazing as well is, and we discussed this when we were talking about doing the thing, is you were searching for a thing, and we kind of all sat there, didn't we? And we was like,
it was like a little light bulb. 3 light bulbs went on.
You're the thing.
You're the thing, Oliver.
You're going to have to create the thing. And I think that's what's going to make it successful, is there is nothing like this out there, because you've now created this space that you needed and wanted and craved so much. And I think that is what's going to make it fantastic. So just thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for sticking with us. You've been amazing, Oliver. And I think this podcast itself, the group, everything is going to help so many people. Your honesty, your authenticity, it's really like addictive.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Oliver.
No, thank you for having me.
Absolutely lovely chatting to you.
And we're going to put the links for everything as well on the podcast description so people can find your group.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye then.
Bye.
So we don't normally come back on at the end, do we? But
No.
we're going to start.
Yes,
Next
we
season.
are. Next season we'll start. We just want to give, firstly, a massive thank you to every single guest that has been on this season and the other two, because it just obviously won't be the same without them. It'd be just me and you.
It was just us talking our usual load of shit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so
people would be so bored of us. But thank you as well, Lisa, for being part of this wonderful podcast.
Oh my God.
See what I mean? Can't do anything nice these days, can you? Why do my eyes look so squinty today? I don't know what's going on with me. I'm not even tired.
Because it's so early. We don't normally do them this early.
I'm not even tired.
No, it's been...
Are you going to say thank you to me or what? Come on.
Well, give me
I don't
a
care if
chance.
it's inauthentic.
No, that's what I mean. It's got to be real, hasn't it? I can't just pretend to say thank you.
Oh, right. She's not great.
I'll wait till the end. Maybe I was going to say it at the end.
Maybe I'll go, oh, God, when you say it. But,
No,
right,
but
what we want to talk about is our membership, don't we?
Yeah.
First off, let me just say, and I don't want this to come across in the wrong way, this podcast, honestly, it's how Be Sober Experiment really did start. Lisa and I had just this vision of us two recording a podcast. We didn't know there were going to be guests. We didn't know there'd be 3 seasons. We just wanted to record a podcast. Our first episode was like...
and tell people and let them know that you could be sober and it was all right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
we didn't know we'd actually be all right at it. We didn't. We thought we'd just be us two twaffling on. We did our first 20-minute episode. Actually took nearly 2 hours to record because we could not stop pissing ourselves laughing at each other.
Wasn't that good though? When you look back, like even now, laughing has been the biggest gift sobriety has actually given me, because I remember in the early days thinking, what if I don't ever laugh again? And now my laughs are so inside my belly, genuine,
Brilliant.
proper laughs. It's amazing. And this podcast, I know if anybody ever messaged us, they always say that they were laughing walking down the street listening to this podcast. And that to me, honestly, it just makes what we do worthwhile. If you can laugh, then
At us or with us.
yeah, but also
but what I was going to say about it is because of the length of time we do it, we did this as an original thing just to say, right, let's just raise awareness, and it's now evolved into us running the entire of Be Sober with our fantastic team of ambassadors, and you know they've been amazing this season. There's been a few of them on, and what I want to ask you is, if you do like the podcast, please will you review us?
Yeah,
please will you just go on and go on to don't do it if you don't like us, because we don't like that stuff.
Just put your phone down and shut up.
Go away and stop listening to us.
Just skip to a different podcast.
Yeah, go and listen to someone else. Don't
If
listen
you
to
don't
us.
like it, they won't be at the end now, would they?
No, that's true. So if you're still here, thank you for still being here. And would you please pop over and just give us a little review on iTunes, anywhere really. But iTunes is always good, isn't it? The Apple
It's
Podcast
definitely
one.
good, because that helps with the algorithms and all that.
It helps push us up so we
It
get
helps
seen.
push us up, and it helps other people see. And honestly, if we've helped you, let other people know about it.
And the other thing is, again, another little cheeky ask is we do have a donate page. We're a community interest company, which means that we're not for profit. And every bit of money that we get goes into the community. So it goes into talks for schools, talks for rehab centres. We've managed to fund people in hardship for membership. We've managed to fund people in hardship for coaching, we've offered counselling, and we want to be able to do more and more and more of that. So if you've got even £1, if you can just go over to our website, www.besoberofficial.com, and click on the donate button and even donate £1, every little penny really, really does help us to help other people. And we're so, every time it comes, we're so grateful. Like, honestly, you think we won the lottery and it's like somebody's given us £3. We get so excited, don't we? Genuinely.
Yeah, it's exciting.
We get so excited. So if you please do that, we'd be so grateful.
The other way you can support, if you don't wish to donate, is by actually becoming an official member of Be Sober. So we do a monthly membership. It's £10 a month, which is less than, I used to pay more than that for a bottle of wine because I was a wine snob.
Yeah, poison
so if
snob.
you think of that, it's less than 2 glasses of wine in a pub a month. But what you get for that is absolutely incredible. Not only do you get the absolute, like, that you've helped all these people with your money every month, but you get like the support group, you get access to the 30-day experiment, you get
fit.
Be Fit every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. You get the group coaching. There's sober lounges, which is specifically for members only.
The drop-in and priority access to all the other Be Sober drop-ins that our wonderful ambassadors run.
Yeah, but mainly a Telegram group.
Yeah, but mainly, like Lisa's just about to say, and I know what she's going to say, you get friendship.
Yes, that is exactly what you get. And real, genuine friendship. You get to meet people that are just like you, that get it, that understand you. You get that me too, which is just incredible. It's special, and you can't freaking buy that. Well, you can, a £10 a month at Be Sober.
So on that note, we are going to leave you, and we are back in October. We're taking quite a long break. We need to get some creativity space.
We're sick of talking to each other, guys. Don't let her fool you. We're just so sick of talking to each other.
But as she said last week on Laurie's podcast, that's not even true, because straight after this podcast, I guarantee that we'll phone each other at least another 4 times today.
That is true. But before we go, can I just say a massive thank you to my best friend ever for being the most wonderful podcast co-host. I love you.
Oh, God. Thank you.
Thank you to every single person that listens, shares us on your stories. Honestly, it means so much to us. When you share us on your stories, we do ring each other and go, look, somebody shared it. And it means the world to us. So thank you for listening to us.
Can I just say, I'm sorry, I know that was supposed to be the end, but that pissed well over my thank you. We'll see you next season.